let's talk briefly about how Arminianism came about. So Arminius, he studies at Leiden. He goes off to become a pastor. Well, he studies at Leiden, then he studies at Geneva, goes off to be a pastor, and then comes back to Leiden. And how did the Calvinist Arminian controversy as we know it arise in his time?
Yeah, so really back up to, in his life anyway, back up to his years of pastoring in Amsterdam, where the first controversy we see is in the 1590s, early 1590s. He's preaching through Romans at the Reformed Church in Amsterdam. And Romans 7, when he's preaching through Romans 7, and he takes a different interpretation than was becoming common among the Reformed. That's the first controversy that we noticed. And then not long after that, Romans 9. Of course, both of these passages very much contested in the history of Christianity, especially in the West. And he takes interpretations on both of those that the majority of his Reformed contemporaries rejected. So that's where you first see the controversy, so that when he came to Leiden as a professor in 1603, about 10 years after these controversies, he was already a controversial figure to the more strictly Reformed, like Gomarus, the surviving faculty member at Leiden. But the controversy wasn't great enough that it impeded his coming to Leiden. So he begins his teaching career there in 1603. By the next year, 1604, there's already now within the faculty there the controversy brewing over predestination as a result of a disputation that Arminius conducts, and then his colleague and opponent Gomarus conducts another disputation on predestination just a few months later, and much of it was kind of point by point contesting Arminius's interpretation. So that's when you start seeing it within the Leiden faculty. Controversies continue there, but they're mostly kept within the university setting. So you got the faculty kind of going at it, students within that theological college, tend to take sides with this or that professor, so they're kind of going at it. In 1607 is when the regent of the theological college dies, Johann Cuchlinus. When he died in 1607, I think events show that he was kind of a glue that held things together and kind of kept the controversies in check pretty well, because after he died, the controversies then begin to spread much more rapidly throughout the churches and throughout really the whole nation of the Netherlands. And so you start seeing by 1607 and 8 a lot more controversy. Arminius dies kind of right in the middle of the heat of that controversy in 1609.
And what year was his Declaration of Sentiments?
1608. He has several writings, three that come to mind, and Declaration of Sentiments is one of those. It was an oral speech. He gave it on October 30th, 1608. It wasn't published until 1610. So after his death, the year after his death is when it was published.
Yeah. Imagine being a supralapsarian and having to sit there and listen to that. So for people who don't know, his primary attack was against a particular kind or strand of Calvinism, which was, well, I guess supralapsarianism was the predominant view of the Calvinist school teachers at the time.
Yeah, I don't know that it was the predominant view, but in Arminius's own context, it certainly was. So if you took a poll of all Reformed who, pastors and professors, they would probably kind of turn out infralapsarian which is the way the canons of Dort end up inclining toward infralapsarianism, which is how the Belgic Confession and Heidelberg Catechism sort of lean. But in Arminius' own context, certainly supralapsarianism was dominant. So, Junius, he's corresponding with in the 1590s. William Perkins' pamphlet or book on predestination, he's responding to in 1602. And then when he joins the Leiden faculty, all of his colleagues are supralapsarians. So Franciscus Gomarus, Lucas Trocasius the Younger, and Johann Cuclinus, the regent of the college, all come out supralapsarian. So I think that's one of the reasons he comes down so hard on it and focuses on it. There are other reasons, but if it's kind of, you've got your office there and you walk down the hallway every day and all of your colleagues are supralapsarian and opposing you kind of every chance they get on it, it's going to affect your own thoughts on it and the way you respond.